Good evening, this is N7GES, and this is the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club TechNet. We discuss amateur radio issues, technical in nature most of the time, but other amateur radio practice issues as well. We're here each Monday evening on the 447-275 or 447-750 repeaters. Also on Echolink at W0UPS-R. We're being streamed live to YouTube, and you can also catch up with our past issues there as well. Welcome anyone to participate, certainly. Tonight is an open forum, so I do welcome all and any amateur radio questions. I won't guarantee to answer them, but usually we've got plenty of people around who can help with that. Before we get too far, I will also just remind you that if you would like to post comments about the net, topic suggestions, or any other information about that for the net, to please email me at Elmers, ELMERS, at NCARC.net. That's the easiest way to contact me. That's also the email address for getting assistance directly from other amateurs on questions you may have, but it's the easiest way to contact me for net topics as well. Oh, let's see who we have listening this evening. Check-ins are not required, certainly, to participate, but it's just nice to know who's out there. Who's listening this evening? Go ahead and we'll take check-ins at this time.
Kilo Alpha 6, Echo Tango Echo, Jim, Loveland.
Kilo Charlie Zero, Golf Delta Mike, Tom, Mobile in Aurora.
November 0, Whiskey, India, Quebec, Carrie in Loveland.
Kilo 0, Hotel Alpha Kilo, David in Fort Collins.
Alpha Echo 0, Charlie, Foxtrot, Ben, Fort Collins.
Kilo Echo 0, Tango Mike Delta, Ryan in Loveland.
Good evening to the net, M0YLS. KE0 SOR, Mike, southbound I-25, Colorado-Wyoming border.
Okay. Stop and take a few and come back. KE0SOR, welcome. N0YLS. Do I have that correct? And what's the name and location, please?
That's correct. It's Mike in Livermore, Colorado.
Okay, very good, Mike. Well, welcome and glad to have you. Also, KE0TMD. AE0CF, K0HAK, N0WIQ, KD0GDM, and KA6ETE. Good evening and welcome to all. Anybody else, please? Okay,
Whiskey Zero Uniform Sierra Charlie, John.
Okay, welcome, John. W0USC, thank you. Anybody else, please? Okay. We're starting with a small crowd, but we usually gain people as we go along, so we'll begin here at least. Does anybody, this is an open forum this evening, so I'd like to start out to see if anyone has a question. Questions only at this point yet for the net this evening. All right. Anybody have a topic they wanted to discuss this evening? Maybe something they had questions about, maybe something they just wanted some more information about. We've had
WIQ.
WIQ?
Well, last time I checked, NCARC wasn't embracing D-Star, and I was wondering if they might have that in the future sometime.
Well, I don't think that we're necessarily not embracing it, but we're not making any current plans for digital repeaters. But that can always change, and I don't know that there's any plan one way or the other at this point in time. I don't believe there's any immediate plans for anything new digitally right now, but that certainly may come later on. And certainly you'll be made aware of that on the various communication methods when that happens. But we're trying to make sure that we meet as many needs as we can with what we have and what we can easily put together before we start adding a lot of new things that we don't have material for at this point in time. So I guess that's the quick answer there. Unless any other NCARC board wants to throw any additional information on that question. That's my latest understanding, certainly. Okay, very good.
Answer for me right now. I have put a variety of hotspots around my home, so I can play with that too. So have a good evening, and I'll listen to the net, and if somebody has questions, I might be able to answer them.
KC0GDM.
Thank you, Carrie. Good evening, Tom. Go ahead.
Thanks, guys. I'm kind of on the edge of the LEO repeater here, so I'll try and make it quick. I've got an FDM 400XD that I'm just really starting to learn some of the features on. And I understand that Wireless X is one thing that it can do pretty well, but I'm wondering what repeaters do you have out there that support that, and does anybody have a quick and dirty manual about how to set that up, you know, for like, you know, the internet connectivity portion of it?
Okay. Give me the radio model again.
Yaesu Fox Tango Mike 400 X-Ray Delta.
Okay. Anybody have any experience with that radio that we can get in some quick information about? Oh, I'm sorry. We may not be able to help you out much with that today. I know we've got some Yaesu users in the area and some Wires X users in the area. I just don't know if who is on when characteristically, or if that's the particular radio that people are used to. But unfortunately, at this point in time, it doesn't sound like any of our folks are on. But it's good to hear you this evening. I haven't talked to you in a long time, so I'm glad you stopped by to check with us anyway before you drifted out of our range there.
Not a problem. It's good to hear everybody on the net. It's always good to hear people on the repeater. So I'll just bow out and go back to listening. And happy holidays to everybody. KC0GDM.
Alrighty, thank you, and the same to you. It's good, really good to hear you again, sir. You have a good one. All right, N7GES. Other topics. This is an open forum on the TechNet this evening, and I've not had too many check-ins or too many questions raised yet, so there's plenty of time and room. Anybody have anything they would like to ask about or discuss as a topic here?
K6ET had a comment about the Wires X.
Okay, go ahead. And what was the call again, sir?
Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo. Sorry, I stepped in the other room, talked to my wife, and couldn't get to the mic in time. But Wires X is, I have both the 400 and a few other Yaesu radios. They're Wires X format to get online. There currently are no repeaters operating in the northern areas unless you can get down to Denver. Ham Radio Outlet has a node that you can connect through. I know once the repeater that NCARC has at the Budweiser Event Center was operational for a while, but it's been down for a while. They're trying to fix that. But once that's up, will be a lot easier to figure out how to connect to the Wires X. You just go to the repeater that you want to connect through and press and hold the DX button on the head unit of the radio, and it'll automatically connect and do everything for you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. So you've used it some before, and you found it to be very easy to use then?
Yeah, that is correct. It is very easy to use. Like I said, if you're within range of a operating Wires X repeater, there is a difference between the Fusion system and the Wires X. Fusion will allow the digital repeater use. Wires X will allow you to connect to the internet in the different rooms that they have. Once you press and hold the DX button on the radio, it'll take about a minute and it connects, and then it'll give you can search a list of all rooms available. They got the America room and Colorado room, and I think there's a total of about 300 and some rooms worldwide that you can connect through. We're fairly easy.
Okay. Were you familiar with the radio that was asked about? Let me see. That was the Yaesu FTM400XD or XD. I'm trying to see. Yeah, XD, I think. Or are you using something else for wires?
For wires, I have used the FTM 400. I actually have two of them. One base that I use on my base station for 2-meter 440. I've used my gauge through the 991A for wires X, as well as my FT2 HT.
Okay, so Tom, I don't know if you're still in the area enough to have gotten that information, but is there any questions you'd like to pose if you're still there?
Oh, I appreciate the information. That's the thing I was wondering about too, is, what repeaters out there are offering the wires X connectivity. It sounds like it's a, excuse me, a little limited up in northern Colorado area, unfortunately, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I've just seen the versatility of it, and it looks like you can pretty much just direct link into, internet linked communications around the world if you want with it, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know, I wish all the vendors would just get on board and have a common digital format, because it just gets really old, I know we hams tend to be a frugal lot, but it would be nice to have a common digital transmission medium sometimes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of that anytime right away, but the varieties are nice, but the lack of commonality between one system and another does tend to be a problem, and especially when it's locked into a particular band. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you. You have any other questions for us, Tom, before you leave the area?
No, that's it right now. I appreciate it, guys. I'm going through the old I-70 fun traffic here, so I'll probably be on the edge of the repeater for a while, but I appreciate it. KC0 GDM, and I'll be clear and listening.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jim, for your info down there, too. I appreciate it. Okay, this is N7GES with the NCARC TechNet. Do we have any other questions this evening or topics someone would like to ask about?
Check in.
Indeed. Okay, we had a complete double there. I heard the person saying check-in. Come again first, please.
Evening, Kevin. A couple of late check-ins. N0 EMP and K0 DBE. Greg and Debbie, Fort Collins.
Okay. Good evening, Greg and Debbie. Thank you for being there. And who was the other station, please?
I think it was K1DEG.
Yep, I believe that was right. Good evening, Mike, and glad to have you with us. Any of you have questions or topics for this evening? We're dealing with an open forum tonight.
I'm hollering in basically to ask a question, K1DEG.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Righty, well, basically, me and my brother was throwing a hypothetical thought out, wondering to know if it's possible. We understand the 7100, you can hook a Cat5 up to it and stretch it out in the field and whatever. That's one of the things that everybody likes about it, because you can run a Cat5 between the face and the radio at just about any length you want, almost. Curiosity that we had was, could you, with adding something, whatever that may be able to run the Cat5 straight into a router and run it over the internet, even a private internet?
Okay. We're talking about connecting the Cat5 from the radio instead of to the faceplate to a router or internet or something of that nature. I'm guessing that's a no, but anybody that has used, and this is the ICOM 7100 you're talking about, correct?
And let me elaborate a little bit. What we were thinking was is have one radio in the house hooked up to Wi-Fi, so then that way my brother can be in the basement and use the radio. He has the face in his hand. He has a Wi-Fi receiver hooked up to the face, and he can use the radio wherever in the house he wants to. Therefore, I can go grab the radio and use the same radio in my room and not have to worry about wires. Hopefully I described the idea. I'm just curious if it's possible.
Okay. If our either ICOM or any radios that use Cat5 cabling between faceplate and radio, any kind of experience like this. Usually Cat5 doesn't necessarily mean internet ready. It's just a cable type. But has anybody done anything like that, heard anything like that, have any idea of being able to do anything of that type?
MIC.
WIQ.
Okay, we had two. MIC, go first, please.
W2MIC. There are some alternatives, Mike, that will let you do what you want to do. It is possible to control the 7100 from an app on an Android smartphone. And that will let you do what you want to do from either a wired interface or from something else. And I am currently digging to look. I believe it is possible to connect the 7100 to a router. Please let someone else go forward and I will come back with more information.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark. I'm glad to have you. You're a little staticky also. I don't know if you've got a, I don't know if it's reception or something else, but when you come back, just take a look at that as well. But please do come back. Carrie, what you got? WIQ?
Excuse me. I forgot to activate my microphone, but anyway, I've had some experience with Cat5 that it has been an issue for me. I got enough hotspots around that I had to go to Cat6 shielded to get some things cleared up. And there's also a Cat7 double shielded cable also. So you just might want to keep that in mind because RF will interfere with it as well. And so there could be, if there's enough RF around, it could interfere with the Cat5. I'll just put it that way.
KC0 GDM.
Okay, thanks much, Carrie. GDM, go.
Hey, Kevin. I'm just curious, just because it's got an RJ45 connector on the body and on the head unit does not necessarily imply it supports the 802.3 network standard for connectivity. I think you'd have to determine whether the base unit actually has the ability to either lease an IP address or you can set an IP address on the unit itself so that you can actually connect it into the network physically. And then, of course, on the other end, the control head would also have to have the same ability to either lease an IP address or get an IP address somehow.
Yeah, that's certainly a good point and obvious, but not always immediately considered there. So, yes, thank you very much. Mark, did you have anything further? catch up with him in a bit when he's back. However, Mike, I think, the direct answer to your question, I think, would be, as was just said, just because it's Cat 5 doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to connect it anywhere in particular, and more than likely not directly to anything to convert to wireless. However, because you have other ways of controlling that radio, that there are probably ways that you can interact with it in some remote fashion, which then could eventually lead to Wi-Fi control, although maybe not by connecting your faceplate to a Wi-Fi router and back directly to the radio. It would probably be something to do with going through a PC or a smartphone or something of that nature. So that's my quick and dirty guess there. And unless Mark, until we get a bit more information, my answer would be yes and no. But certainly, remotely, absolutely yes.
Well, it was just a thought. We're sort of in a roundabout way trying to add to the stack of reasons to buy a 7100. Is the question. Because if we had a radio and two faces and was able to do that, it would be pretty cool. Or two radios and two faces and be able to, because we're not going to be able to transmit from the house at the same time on two different frequencies. It just ain't going to work. So that's where we were thinking, it would be pretty neat. Go park the truck up on the hill, turn the Wi-Fi on, and come back down here and start talking on his radio up on the hill, a good distance away, K1DEG.
Well, I would bet that that radio will allow you to do it in some fashion. Maybe not with your existing faceplate, certainly, as a remote, but certainly with some other method of remote control. So we'll see if Mark has anything in addition in a little bit here. But a good question nonetheless, and I understand everybody. It's always so tempting to think that because these disconnect or connect with specific kinds of connectors, wouldn't it be cool if they would just plug into other things? And I get that. And of course, we also mostly all realize that. No, that really doesn't work that way. It's just that kind of a cable and connector is a handy thing to use for multiple wired connections. But the reality nowadays with a lot of the modern radios is that there probably is a way to do some of those things, just not by directly plugging in a faceplate to another gadget and another gadget to the radio type deal. Anyway, good questions, good discussion, no problem asking. Mark, are you back with us at this point, or should we wait a while here, or head on to something else for a bit?
Kevin, Mike has the ability to ask a short question that takes me hours to answer. I'm digging.
Okay, we got you. Anyway, and that's fine. All right, jump in anytime, Mark, and it's good to hear you. I've added you to the roll call here, too, so it's nice to hear you this evening. Okay, other questions for the net tonight. This is N7GES, and this is the NCARC Tech Net.
K0HAK.
JK, good evening. Go ahead.
Well, since we're having such a heavy digital night tonight, discussing all the digital modes, I thought I would throw one in for DMR. I picked up one of the Radioddity GD77 handhelds a couple of weeks ago on a lightning deal on Amazon, and I've been playing around with getting it set up, and I'm not having much luck in getting out on it. And one of the things I keep running across is people talking about using the parrot mode to try and test your audio or your connectivity to a repeater. repeater. But what I can't find is really any details on how to use parrot mode. Everybody seems to just assume that you know how. Does anybody have any light they could shed on that topic?
Well, I think I can help you a bit with that. Tell me again, what was the model of the radio?
It's just one of these little, El Cheapo. It's the Radioddity GD77 radio. It's a Tier 2 radio. I picked it up for like $65.
Okay. Just wanted to mark that along with your other question here. And I'm writing things down here. So usually there will be a repeater you use which has a color code and a talk group, and you'll need those three bits of information. You'll need the repeater frequencies, of course. You'll need its color code, and you'll need a particular talk group on that repeater. The parrot is usually one of those talk groups, and I'm thinking it's oftentimes like a 999 or 000 or something. I don't recall, but there's a talk group that will be listed as the parrot or test talk group. And so once you've programmed your channel with the correct repeater and all of those settings, and then you've created a it used to be you had to create a contact with the group number included that you wanted to use. That may or may not be quite the same way it's done anymore, but you have to at least include the talk group in the channel you're using, and usually you had to do that by creating a contact with that talk group assigned, and then you can dial up the channel, which includes that talk group by that contact, along with that correct repeater and its settings. All right. Anybody else want to fill me in on any points I missed on that? ETE.
Yeah, my understanding with the parrot mode is only available on Brandmeister repeaters, which the Rocky Mountain Ham repeaters, they do have some Brandmeister, but majority of them up here are not. The Northern Colorado DMR, all of their repeaters are Brandmeister, which you make a private call to the ID 9990. What you do is when you make a call to that code, it will record a message up to 90 seconds, and when you unkey within a couple seconds, it'll play the message back to you if you got into the repeater.
Okay, AJK, did that help?
Yeah, I think so. I think the key might be that private call instead of doing a group call. And then I still probably have to have that configured in, for the repeater, so that when I key up on that, it's assigned to that frequency on that repeater. So that makes sense. And the Brandmeister thing, I did not know that was only available on Brandmeister, so that might definitely be an issue there as well that I've been running into. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a try tonight and see what I can come up with. Thanks for all the help. K0HAK, back to net.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Good question, and it's been a while since I've done DMR, so my skills are rusty, but between the two of us, hopefully you got what you needed. There's a lot of internet info out there about it as well, and sometimes it might be easiest to get the info from the particular system you're trying to use. As Jim gave you there is probably pretty clear. The other reason I asked you about your radio model is you of course maybe are already aware that there are some radios that are compatible with many of the DMR repeaters and some that are not. So hopefully you've already seen that list and verified that the radio you're trying to use is compatible, because if it is not, it can create quite a problem on the various DMR networks. So various people like R.M. Ham have created a list of radios that they will not that they will allow you to use on their networks, and so that may not be what you're having any difficulty with. It's probably still programming, but it is something is certainly to be aware of as well. Other comments or questions on this? Okay. Other questions or comments or topics? This is N7GES, and this is the NCARC TechNet.
KA6ET.
Go ahead.
I had a question, see if anyone knows or came up with the same thing I did. I've been putting together a power system, or solar power, for my base station to run both my radio, light, basically the entire radio portion of my office, which consists of 2 radios, a laptop, antenna tuner, stuff like that, through solar power. From my calculations, I should be able to do it with a single 100-watt solar panel with 2 deep cycle batteries.
Okay. We've had a lot of research done on that topic, and I know there's probably going to be more questions to answer there before you can get the verification, perhaps. And Mark is probably the one I would send all of this to if he's at a point where he can answer that. But I know that part of what you're going to need to answer probably is what kind of batteries, the 2 batteries you're using, and what how much equipment or power are you looking at requiring from everything there. Mark, would you like to take on some of this discussion?
W2MIC, just so I'm clear, you are interrupting your previous interruption, correct?
I hope not. And if I've got things confused or whatnot, I'm sorry. I had a question about solar, and I was wondering if you were interested in answering that, or if you're busy with the other topic.
Well, I certainly can try to answer it, but that means that Platteville Mike's answer will get delayed. Let's see. First question. Have you had an opportunity to watch the NCARC presentation on solar power for amateur radio and boondocking, done by a handsome, knowledgeable gentleman who goes by the call sign of W2MIC?
I have not. I will get online right after the net and watch that, though.
okay? Because him is me. And in the video, I answer all of the questions you are asking, including the appropriate equations to figure out how much you need, how many batteries you need, etc. And I can be available after the net to address any questions that the video does not.
Thank you very much. That'll work for me. I'll watch the video and in the background to listening to the net. KA6ETE, back to net.
Okay, Kevin, I'm back to researching Mike's answer, and I have that.
Okay, you want to go ahead and share that now then?
Sure, W2MIC, Platteville Mike. The 7100 will connect to a computer via the USB connection on the back of the main module, not the head plate. The communication between the main module and the head plate does use a Cat series cable, but does not use LAN protocol. So they're just using the cable as conveniently available, inexpensive wiring. Like several other people, I personally use Cat 7, which is doubly shielded cable. I know that Rhodes has run 100 feet of unshielded cable between the radio chassis in his truck and the control head sitting next to the campfire 100 feet away. Like Kerry and other people, I'm terrified of RF interference from my antenna getting into my LAN cable, so I use Cat 7. Let's see. Now, on the topic of controlling the radio remotely, you want to go look at the, I've actually emailed these to you already, you want to go look at the Google Play Store for the RSMS-1A. That's Romeo Sierra Mike Sierra 1 Alpha control software, which can be configured to talk from your smartphone, wherever you are in the world, to your computer via your router, and then from your computer to the USB control of the ICOM 7100. I'm going to break and come back up here. And on the computer proper, you need the ICOM RS-PA1 software. That is Romeo Sierra Bravo Alpha 1. And this is the software that runs on the computer that will remotely control the ICOM 7100. And then from the aforementioned Android software, you can talk to the computer and then from your phone. So you could literally be sitting in Timbuktu with your cell phone running the remote control software on the cell phone, talking into the microphone of the cell phone. That goes out over the internet, goes to your computer, goes down the USB cable, goes to the 7100, and presto shazam, you are now talking on your 7100. Obviously, license limits apply here.
All right, well, that's a good summary, basically. But how hard would it be to convert the signal that's going over that Cat cable over to the LAN protocol so that it can be sent wirelessly over a private internet?
A Raspberry Pi doing voice in. You would then be converting from analog to digital, packetizing into the appropriate format, which is not documented by ICOM, sending it down the cable, and then you would have to have some internal wiring in the radio to receive voice packets over the internet connection. Remember that just as many people have said, just because it's an RJ45 jack doesn't mean that it's using internet protocol. So you would have to get inside the microprocessor, inside the 7100, and reprogram that microprocessor. I don't know if the signal levels are compatible, and I don't know if the speed of the port is compatible, because voice is very low bandwidth, and so sending voice over the twisted pairs in the Cat 5 cable, or Cat 6 or Cat 7, would be very easy. I very strongly suspect that what's on both ends of the LAN cable, quote-unquote, on the control head and the chassis is an analog interface, and you would need to replumb that to be a digital interface. I suspect that effectively it's impossible.
N0WIQ about the IC7100.
Stand by just a minute, Terry. Mike, is that answer your question?
Almost impossible for that particular idea, but you know, it was just a thought. If how hard would it be to convert it over from from analog to digital, send it over the internet to a wireless router that's connected to the face, you know, and then deconvert it, you know, kind of thing to be able to use the face. It was just an idea. We was curious if it was possible. Almost impossible. That's a good enough answer.
Yeah, I imagine that's a good summary. Mark, I did get the ICOM software, but what was the Android software part of that equation that you mentioned? I did not get the name of that, and I just wanted to mark it down here.
Okay, pulling up my notes. Give me a moment here.
I was writing as fast as I could. It just didn't work.
The Android control software to run remotely via the internet to the computer to the USB cable to the ICOM 7100 chassis is Romeo Sierra Mike Sierra 1 Alpha. It is available on the Android Play Store. It is free. That is Romeo Sierra Mike Sierra 1 Alpha. Do you wish me to email to you, Kevin, these references?
I would enjoy that. I think this could be very interesting info to have available. Thank you.
Will do. I will get them off to you within the next 60 seconds. Back to net.
Okay, no rush. WIQ, what did you have for me?
For one thing, the IC7100 will do D-Star. And if you set up a link for D-Star, you can do that. I mean, a dual band radio that can do D-Star might be the answer to that, but I don't know positively, so that's my comment. Back to net.
Okay. Good, thank you. Yeah, Mike, I think those kind of questions are always okay, as long as, you know, just realize, you know, when is it not worth pursuing, or when is it maybe a way better choice to pursue another direction? So, yeah, good questions, but probably you'd be a lot happier with results of something different. So anyway, and plus you don't have to buy the extra faceplate that way. So there are a couple of ways to go there that way. But the fact that radio is USB interfaceable is certainly there are a lot of things that probably could be very advantageous about that for several reasons. It's controllable via USB. It's also an audio USB device, so going in and out with audio is made that much easier. So you know, when you get to that kind of interfacing, you got a whole lot of doors that open up. You just have to maybe think about it in a little less conventional way than the existing faceplate type thing. Okay, this is N7GES and the TechNet. We're on an open forum tonight. Anybody else have questions or comments or topic suggestions?
DEG comment.
DEG, go.
The reason all that come up is because of the simple fact of it is both of us cannot run HF off of two different antennas, two different rigs in the same location. I do not believe they will like each other. So we were trying to figure out how we could maybe use one rig and be able to transmit in two different locations, from two different locations, my bedroom, his bedroom kind of thing. Or would it be two radios to one antenna with a relay, you know, and that's when all of the 7100 thoughts came up. But, you know, anyway, that's where we were coming from. It's where the question spawned from. K1DEG, I'm done.
Yep, absolutely. All of that makes good sense for, you know, that kind of a consideration. And hey, you know, I'm fairly sure that you know, as much as a faceplate costs, you could probably add several different connected devices through the internet or whatever to control that radio from multiple places, and pipe audio in and out almost easier that way. So yeah, absolutely, it's probably very doable, but I haven't done it. I don't own one. I don't have any idea how, but there's some stuff to look into, certainly from the software points of view, which could be very, very, very interesting. Okay, other comments or topics?
KC0 GDM.
Evening again. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, Kevin. Mike brought up an interesting point. I was curious about this, and it's been a long time since I've done it. But can't you transmit, if you have something like a diplexer, at different frequency bands on the same antenna? And I may be, you know, way off here, but I was just trying to recall, and I was just curious. I think you can do that, right, without interfering with each other. It would, I mean, obviously not the exact same frequency, but if you were done, you know, like if one person's trying to do 20 meters and one person's trying to do 40 meters, is that possible?
I think it's definitely possible. But there certainly are a fair amount of things that one would have to be very careful of. Would anybody else like to expound more on that? Because that's definitely also out of my abilities there.
Zero WIQ again.
We had a double. I heard WIQ. Who was the other station?
KD0FQN.
Oh, good evening. Go ahead.
I was just going to make more of a snide or smart aleck comment. I'm good for those. If you had a couple of duplexers about the size of your house, you could probably do 20 meters.
Well, thank you. We'll keep that in mind. Certainly, I know that you can do it with the higher bands, fairly straightforward. You know, with VHF and UHF, because a lot of repeaters are doing that sort of thing right now. But yeah, I'm guessing that if you're getting into HF frequencies, I'm sort of guessing that your big issue there is going to be size of equipment to make that work. Any additional info from WIQ?
Well, in actuality, the antenna won't care how many signals go through it at the same time. The thing that might have to be you might have to check on is how to keep one signal out of the receiver on the other thing, because most people use transceivers at this time. So you don't want any of the power output going into the receiver part of another transceiver. So you need to have some way of blocking that out. But on the other hand, the antenna will handle multiple signals at the same time. Of course, the multiple signals have to go to different receivers some way again. So it's a matter of steering the RF from one not into another one that's close by, but all that kind of stuff. So that's what you got to check on. So, like I said, like the antenna itself won't object to the multiple signals, but the equipment you use to make those multiple signals and or receive those multiple signals might object to some of the things.
MIC.
MIC, go.
One can indeed use as many transceivers and as many antennas in pretty much the same location as one desires. There is this wonderful device called a band pass filter, like mechanical external crystal, that will pass, let us say, 10 meters, but block 17 meters. If you have the appropriate band pass on the antenna coax of one transmitter, you can operate another transmitter on another band, and so on.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, pretty much I was thinking along that line, but hadn't quite got it put together right. So, alrighty, very good. Any other comments along those lines? Okay. Other questions for the NCARC TechNet? This is N7GES.
KB0SCX, late check-in, and I have a comment on the 7100.
Good evening, George. Go ahead.
I would take a look at the FT rig program, the remote control program for various radios. The 7100 is one of the radios it supports, and its connection to the radio, I believe, is a couple of ASCII data streams, which you should be able to remote pretty easily. This is just a wild-ass guess, but I think that I would think that it's possible to do. KB0SCX.
Okay. Thank you, George. And that's FT Rigs. Is that correct? As in Fox Tango?
I believe so. It's the popular remote control program for to let you run your radio remotely from your computer screen.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Other comments on this? we have a lot of ideas there, and that's always a good thing. Some of those certainly have, everything has to be evaluated for what it's going to be used for and what's going to work best in your situation, but lots of options. Anybody else with comments or questions for the TechNet here before we close off here?
K7 IRC.
Good evening, IRC. Go ahead.
Good evening. I was wondering if anybody is knowledgeable about the Yaesu FTDX 3000 settings. I'm having difficulty with a couple of them. One I'm looking at for someone else, and one of them is mine. They both have different issues that I'm unable to uncover the solution to. And if somebody was really knowledgeable and could get me over the hump, that would be super great. Anybody, FTDX 3000 knowledgeable guru, I'll be willing to talk to you about it.
Okay, anybody familiar? That is a Yaesu radio, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, anybody have any info to offer or help perhaps to offer with the FTDX 3000 rig? We have somebody looking for some information there.
Okay, well
not,
thank you. Can only ask. K7 IRC clear.
No problem, and glad you did. Sorry we weren't able to help you out there, but keep an ear out, and maybe we'll have somebody later on another time or something there. But in any event, thanks for the question. Very good. Other questions or comments, please?
1 Delta Echo, go.
Mike, DEG, go ahead.
I've got a question, but first, Dave tried to chime in there, and I guess he got missed. I did hear his voice, I believe.
Okay. I don't know. I did not hear him. Come again, please. I didn't hear him. Which Dave was it?
I thought it was LEV, but it might have not been. I don't know.
Okay, was somebody else trying to check in? Okay. What did you have, Mike?
It's just a quick comparison question between the ICOM IC5100 and the Yaesu 400. We have a 400, but we were curious if the 5100 would be good, and I think my brother was trying to debate on buying another 400 or buying the 5100.
Okay. So you've already looked at both radios. Did you have some specific questions? Were you, of course, if you're looking for a general general recommendation, you're going to get all kinds of answers, I'm sure. Do you have some specific things you're wondering about on that?
Just personal opinions, what other people have experienced, which one would be better to buy, because they're pretty much the same price almost right now.
anybody want to make a comment between those two radios, the ID 5100 or the Yaesu FT 400, I think it is.
N0 EMP.
EMP, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I've got the 5100 in my truck. I've had it for over a year now. Very happy with it. I was looking at two different radios, the 5100 and probably the other one that Mike is talking about. I wanted a remote head with a touch display and a large display face on it for my old eyes, and both radios looked good. The one thing I think I misread or didn't look into enough before I bought the 5100, it says it does APRS, but it only does APRS apparently in digital mode in D-Star. So it'll do D-Star APRS, but not normal APRS, even though it has a GPS receiver in it. And that was my only complaint about it. But other than that, it's a very good radio. I've been very happy with it. N0 EMP.
MIC.
IC, go ahead.
Ditto the 7100. I do have a GPS receiver for the 7100, and the 7100 uses the GPS receiver to figure out where you are physically on the D-Star network and what the nearest repeaters to you, to your GPS location, are. However, the radio does not do APRS in any other usable sense.
GDM.
Okay, GDM.
Well, as I've got the FTM 400DX in my car, I have to admit the APRS, that was one of the things that intrigued me with it. It's fully rated to the APRS right out of the box all by itself. It doesn't really do it to the D-Star, obviously, because on the AC side there's more diffusion and wires it. But very, very handsome rig, very good. And apparently the price has dropped. I paid about $560. I think it's come down significantly on it. So I think either rig will be very, very, satisfy their requirements really well. But this comes down to proprietary issues too. I mean, if you ever want to go digital with any of your other equipment, I would suggest sticking with that brand, so at least your digital capability will all be compatible across all your units.
EG.
EG.
If the 5100 doesn't have full-time APRS, that answers the question. It'll be a 400.
Okay, very good. All right, other comments or questions, please? This is N7GES.
AG0CF.
Evening, Ben, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if anyone has worked with the MMDVM, that open source digital voice add-on to analog radios, and I was wondering if this thing can't do the dual slot that's available like P25 or other digital modes.
Okay, let me sure I understand what you're asking about. MMDGM, is that correct?
This would be Mike, Delta, what's the, can't remember, hold on.
is Victor. Yeah, so Mike Delta Victor Mike. This is a software-based digital voice codec or add-on.
Okay. And were you asking about using it with a particular radio, or just asking if anybody has used it at this point?
I guess either. Even the latter would be kind of interesting. I was wondering if anyone has played with it or not. And I guess two things I was wondering is, first of all, was this meant to be used only as a repeater? Well, that's one thing. And then the other thing is, can it be used with a general purpose old FM radio to and also be able to use the two slots, which seems like it's not really possible unless the radio is specially designed.
Okay. All right. Greg, do you have any experience with that software?
No, I do not, Kevin. N0EMP.
Okay. Yeah, just a shot in the dark there. Anybody else familiar with that? MMDVM for digital voice software package. Okay. All right, Ben, I don't think we're going to get you an answer this time, but we'll have to just keep an ear out for future questions on that area or something there. So, but thanks for asking anyhow. And I know you and I talked about this a bit a few weeks ago, so I don't have much more information now than I did then, but we'll just have to keep plowing away at it there. Thank you. Any other questions?
SCX.
SCX, go ahead.
The other week there was some discussion of the ionosphere, and there's a local page that has a status report for the ionospheric conditions, and I'd like to know what the URL for that page is.
Okay, let me see. I don't know that I have that easily handy. Does anybody else have that handy? There are several different places that people get that info, but I'm guessing you're asking about a particular one that we discussed here, and I don't know if I can find that quickly or not. Does anybody want to hazard some info on that?
EMP, I'll have to grab my laptop and bring it in. It'll be just a minute. I've got it bookmarked on that.
Okay, that would be great if you don't mind doing it. And I will be back in just a moment. N7GES, all stations stand by. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. N7GES back. I had a little emergency I had to run for quickly. I am back. Do we have anybody, did we have any additional questions or anything like that now that we're ready to fill in?
Hey, Kevin, N0EMP.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got that bookmark for the ionosonde. It's an extremely long bookmark. Leave it to the government to complicate things. I would really have to... I'm not even going to try to read it over the air. It's ridiculously long and convoluted. It's not even words. It's a bunch of just junk. So I would suggest getting on Google, and it's located in Boulder. There's apparently two of them. There's one at the CSU in Boulder, or Colorado State Boulder. That's not the one you want. You want the one that's with NOAA, NOAA. They have a Boulder ionosonde, and if you Google around long enough, you'll eventually find it and then bookmark it. That's what I ended up doing, but unfortunately, I can't read this URL to you. It's ridiculous. N0EMP.
Okay, and what are you calling it? Atoson?
Ionosonde. IONOSONDE. It's a fancy name for ionospheric radar.
Okay, SCX, does that, will that help you for the time being?
Yes, sir. I think that's enough information with the Googles to find it. The program I was mentioning before was FLRig, which is part of the FLDigi set, which I know people have used for remote operation of radios.
Okay, I need to bring this to a close here. Is there any last-minute questions that we can help with before I close this? Sorry, I have to close a little suddenly, but we've had a good discussion here. Anything else?
MIC.
MIC.
After net, I will be available to handle the proposed solar system questions.
Wonderful. So stay tuned for the Graduate TechNet following this one. Alrighty. Anything else? Okay. I've already posted next week's, well, I've emailed next week's TechNet. It's not posted on the web yet, but it will be. A simple question that might have a lot more discussion than just a simple answer. What part of a simple dipole actually is does the majority of the transmission, and why? And why does it have to be so long? Some interesting things to chat about next week, and I hope you will look forward to it and be there. Again, if you have questions for the net or about the net or would like to make suggestions, please email Elmers, ELMERS, at ncarc.net and let us know those things. I appreciate suggestions. I am always glad to try to respond to anything that I think will make our program more interesting and helpful to other people. Thank you again very much, and I wish all of you a very pleasant evening. In 73s, I will have to be going off the air, but Everyone else, stay tuned and enjoy and have a great evening. And thanks again to everybody who participated. N7GES, clearing and returning the repeater to normal use.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.